Not a creature was stirring except for on crowdfunding because it's actually a relatively lull in July, but we're talking about what's out there in the first place. And and Gen Con and Game Found in Agogo and board game news this week. But you want crowdfunding, so let's freaking go. What do we got of the small indie style and a few other big ones along the way? Let's freaking go. Do you Teburu? Do you have interest in Teburu in general? This is like, I believe, the fourth iteration of Teburu, and now we get more sword and sorcery. Basically, taking out a lot of the minutia from an app-driven electronic board game, if you will, which is a very intriguing concept. I wonder, before we get down spoilers, how many people of the Teburu system here are previous incorporators or adopters, and how many are new? Because I feel like to actually get a value from the Teburu system, you have to have more than just one of these. And from the previous campaigns they've done, they're giving you all different games, which is just great, right? But it's like being a Stonemeyer champion to me. It's like being a chip theory strategist. It's great to spend that much money, but the variety in which stuff is coming out, you're not all going to like equally. So if you get them all, is that really saving any money? Or are you just buying a bunch of other stuff that you need or don't need? And Sword and Sorcery is a well-known property on the dungeon crawl side of things. And I love the idea of this because, to be frank, the no rule book, the save as you're going, and not having to keep track of some of the minutia is very appealing. But at the same time, I know a lot of people say, why did you get into tabletop games? To de-electrify myself, to disconnect from the matrix of our electronics-based society now. And I want the pen, paper, D&D. I mean, that's why D&D in general has seen a resurgence now. A lot of people keep track with various things, and they do the online things as well, DMing and group playing and all that sort of stuff. But there is a certain desire to have less of that as well. So it gives you all of the Teburu things that you're going to need to know of. And that may be the biggest part of this from a sword and sorcery standpoint, is getting rid of some of those mechanics that become a little bit too tedious in some of these, especially dungeon crawl games. This isn't necessarily new stuff right here, right? Because if you already have Immortal Souls, one of their previous systems, you can convert it. So this isn't like brand new sword and sorcery in that way, although you are getting, it appears, 3 other expansions and a bunch of extras. So I guess I would just wonder, if you have all of the other stuff, is this worth it to you to just get the Teburu system to adapt it in this way? And these are all hero conversion boxes, though, for $110. Or sorry, 110 euros, much more. All the other expansion content, all this. I mean, so they're just going full on Teburu adaptation, which it's not bad, right? If you want the Sword and Sorcery Teburu edition, but this is already if you have Teburu. And again, it's still going to cost you over $100. What's the actual just Teburu system? 100 euros as well. So that's not horrible. I feel like that's actually less than previous campaigns. But again, if you're paying $100 to have adaptations from across the board, literally and figuratively speaking, is that really appealing to you? Sword and Sorcery, like I said, it's a known thing. And you can even play it with Teburu, and people have put out videos specifically for that. So the game itself is not the conundrum. It's the combination thereof, and the holy crap, this is coming to you almost 2 years before it's actually going to get to you. So take that for what you will, but it's divisive. We're talking about it. I think this is a great concept. I think I'd love to try this out. I'm just not sure for the price point. Personally speaking, I would go for this currently. It would have to be, really, really, really accessible. Lovecraftian, Cthulhu, board game, choose your own adventure. Because that's really kind of what it is. But $265,000 is really impressive. And I really like the aesthetic that Tin Universe is gone here with. Abyss Echo, the Forbidden Rite. So it's got more of an RPG, choose your own adventure style with a storybook situation, dice rolling, 13 endings. That's kind of nifty. And the other nice thing they say, just like the Teburu in a completely opposite direction, you just open it and go. 2025, it didn't exist. Miskatonic is gone. But now you get to know what happened to it. So, wait, did that say only Kickstarter? Never reprinted, Kickstarter exclusive. No, nope, just kidding. A wave of stretch goals and bonuses that are exclusive. Fracture dice, destiny coin, outcome system, action system, combat system, 13 ending system. Okay, so I mean, it's kind of a choose your own adventure narrative style escape room with, 13 different endings. And again, I don't say that's anything wrong. It's a gimmick, and people love this gimmick on crowdfunding if we've seen nothing else of the choose your own adventure storybook exit room style. And so I think this is clever, and you're going with it right there. And so I think it's just a deluxeified version of that. Obviously, I'm saying that a little bit tongue-in-cheek because it is a little bit more than that as a whole. And I mean, all the previewers here have said that it's something different as well. So give it a look. But $55 for the digital edition. Now, can you do the digital? I mean, that seems really counterintuitive. If you're commenting about the fact that some of this stuff is so hands-on with the character profiles scratching to, well, can you do that with the PDFs? $138 value for $100. Okay. So 550 pages is a lot. And they run you through what the books are here. Antarctica, Forgotten Link, Sanctarium, Abyssal Echo, Ritual Devices, the big fancy book and the cover and the coin and the scratch-offs. Okay. So the rulebook is here, designing the system. They got everything right here as well. The countless dice shattered when they were playtesting it, and they discovered it. So they said that they just did it themselves. Okay, you want to see some video? We got some video here, and yeah, what's the shipping gonna be? What's the timeline for this? That's not too bad. I think this is an intriguing concept because it's something different. It's a combination of all those things you've seen, but not quite necessarily in the same way. So yeah, all of those things going on. It's got $250,000. That's impressive. Give it a look. I remember covering this vaguely the first time Fliptown came around, but now I'm really intrigued because it gives me sort of a different The Gang sort of style in a completely different manner, like Balatro-esque, if you will. And that's a horrible comparison. Don't listen to me. Ignore that whole thing right there, right? It's a flip and utilize, but it's doing it with a poker deck. And now not only can you do Old West style with more content from New Frontier, we're going underwater with Flip Voyage. So this is clearly my pick of the week right now, from the designer of a game like called Sprawlopolis and Circle the Wagons, which are great under the radar things as well. Flippin' Rite, right? So you have these 3 cards that you're going to pull up, and each of the 3 cards are going to, as a roll and write would with dice, allocate to different resources, checkoffs, or abilities that you're going to be doing. And for $29, that's impressive. $27 for New Frontier with the specialists, $64 for that, and $95 for everything. So that's not a bad gameplay deal. And again, like I said, very straightforward. 3 cards. 1 moves you to a new location. 2nd, engages in one of the 4 areas of discipline. 3rd, you take the action in that section, plus or minus repairing if you so choose. And you can see that you're using suits as well as numbers to do different aspects of those. So you're taking into all of those accounts. You are a Nautilus submarine here, conducting experiments, warfare, undersea adventures. And I thought that said oppress a village. No, it's liberate an oppressed village. Combo chain, powerful upgrades. Rado is already calling this one of the 100 best games of all time, or maybe his top 100. Anyway, solo play, multiplayer. I think that actually that setup right there is super appealing, more so than anything else at the top of that page, showing me exactly what it's going to look like, the full diagram of things, how it's cohesive. I think this looks like an absolutely great game too. How good though? That'd be my question. And how different in the multiplayer sense? That would be the other thing that I would have to raise. Fantastic discoveries. It gets you a little mini version of the flipping game as well. Rulebook is there. It gives you some mechanisms here. I know it's like, oh, they both play quite differently. Oh, there's a new theme and new art here. Just kidding. No, it's got more resources. It's got sections. It's got a different map, a unique different puzzle, less luck. So if you like less luck, the second one's going to be better for you as well. So again, preview content there. You can check out galore. But I think this looks incredibly, incredibly solid. I think this looks like just something I was not expecting to be as interested in as I am. So it's definitely going on my wish list after this. And Frontier here gives you a full box expansion as well to the original base game, giving you 4 different more regions to explore with an entirely new board. And then the new concept here is that you have these ricochet bullets. So when you gain a bonus action on a board, it goes to the other board and you get another bonus action, and you can kind of ricochet it back and forth, getting the combo chaining literally, you know, multiple times. So these games look absolutely solid, and so I'm just more shocked a game like this doesn't get more funding in that sense. At the same time, with a game that is $5 for the print and play, and for $27 for the lowest level right here, or $29, that's actually really, really good in terms of funding if you think about it. 154 and 52 getting that. So wow, we must have a lot of people getting the new stuff. Yeah, a lot of people love this. 700 getting the $52 version of both the new things. So that is really impressive for the price point. I'm probably going to be breaking 100,000 easily. So give that a look. Oh, and tell them League sent you. Compania. Now, this is the English edition. If you're looking and saying, Chris, this was familiar. Yeah, Level 99 Games ran the Japanese version earlier this year. And this is the English version, again, getting $67,000. And then this is a very unique worker placement game. I like the idea of this because the mechanisms, again, as you look at these games nowadays, you say, why would I want this one? How is this one different? How is this going to occupy a different space in my collection to get it to the table easier? And this is an engine builder, and you'll understand what I mean with that because it's got a little bit of area control as you're assigning these dice to the different areas on the board, gradually opening up this board as you go through the rounds to more different areas you can splay them to. And then if you have like the most in there, you get a special action on top of that as you're assigning them to the various jobs across the city. Now, you also have variables set up in those places in the first place. And did I mention that those dice, when you're trying to assign them at the beginning of the round, you actually program them. So it's not that you assign them and watch everyone else place them, you know, like you do regular worker placement style. You have these dice hidden behind a screen, as you can see here on the upper left with the yellow dice here, and you get to choose where they go, and the pips represent the number of workers that you are sending there. Win control, get your resources, expand and build your empire, and then you get the points based off of like how efficient your engine is in that way. So when you take, say, this action, you're going to get everything underneath it in that way in order to, well, just get more points. And I'm really impressed from the rulebook side of things. It's very solid. This is probably, again, my second pick this week because this is going to be something that, again, people are going to overlook. See my review in the past week, 2 weeks, whatever it was, of Spooktacular, which Level 90 Games knocked it out of the freaking park. That's going to be a top 10 game of the year. And so this is doing something different. The only question with these Level 99 ones, right, is just like a lot of these nowadays, is what's the incentive? And with the Spooktacular, it was a little bit of the deluxe extras. Here it is too. Do you need these wooden tokens and dice to thrill you, essentially, right there? Or you can buy 6 of them and really get an unbeatable price. No, you're not retail, so you can't. But I think this looks like something solid. It's probably going to be too light for people. It's probably going to be too short. It's not going to be heavy enough for the sort of thinkers. But again, 900 people, Level 99 Games. I'm waiting for wardens. I'm waiting for wardens. Show me some wardens next, please. Thank you. I think this looks like a really nice light family game of goats and goblins. We were just playing Vicious Gardens last night. I actually really like that game. Spoilers for all 7 of you who are watching this part of the video. I'll have a review coming out in the next week or 2 as well of that. Surprisingly good. Now, split on some of the modules, but that's nothing new with all the modular and expansion type of situations we're running into, especially from a crowdfunding aspect. There's always a couple that are shinier and better, and a couple that you just go, man, not quite sure. So this is Goats and Goblins, though, 2 to 6 people. And essentially what you do is you have this big, like, whole cave deck in the middle. And at the beginning, the leader says how many they're going to pull. And if they pull a certain number, you decide whether or not you're going to go in with them or you're going to pass. Now, you're also going to be manipulating both the cave itself and the cave-ins that's going to go along with it, because if you pull 3 cave-ins, then you fail. If you don't and you succeed, then whoever decided to go in with the leader, depending on how many cards, gets to split all the goods and the monies. And whoever has the most monies when that big deck of cards runs out wins. That's as much as you really need to know. And so do you like doing that? Do you like forcing other people to draw extra cards? Do you like doing some take that directly and indirectly? And do you want to pay $20 for a game or twice that amount for a little bit of deluxified? This has just a nice feel to it. And I've heard, well, I haven't heard much. I remember covering both of these, but Cult of the Deep was one of those at a higher base deduction side of things that I wonder if it's stood up the test of time. But rulebook's there, previews are here, and again, another solid, just under the radar, family style weight game. So BA Games, it's got it going on here with Goats and Goblins. Now, speaking of escape room style narrative things, this is a puzzle book called Emerald Echoes. Again, $250,000 by the time you guys are going to be doing this, and it's a puzzle adventure book, right? Tactical puzzle adventure book. And don't worry though, for this puzzle, you don't literally need an internet connection. I'm so glad they put that in there. Solo, co-op, I don't know, right? Do you do puzzles solo or co-op? That's how you need to really figure out whether or not it's right for you. The fabulous evolution of a puzzle tale. What is a puzzle tale? Puzzle tale. Anyway, it's a puzzle. It's got pieces. You're doing a narrative situation. You've got chapter envelopes and things like that, and illustrated pages and envelopes galore, and analysis that you get to flip up and burst through. So again, this is less of me. I like the other Cthulhu one better from this aspect, but you know what? You can get a fancy... Ooh, that's actually a really nice enamel pin. Actually, I really like the look of that enamel pin. Anyway, here's some more stuff, a bunch of quotes and a bunch of videos. So these ones are always tricky, and I don't watch the videos on these ones, but, you know, it's one of those situations where how much can you spoil, and are you okay with being spoiled, but not being spoiled, and then can you really know whether or not it's right for you? And that's the trouble with these things, which is why I'd let someone else bring it over on game night. Now, this one I have a big mea culpa on, because Echoes of Sundering, Kyle, one of the folks behind this, reached out to me like almost 2 months ago, and I have been playing horrible I'm an idiot email tag with him about covering this one. So there may still be some inklings of coverage between now and even post-campaign, but this actually looks from a dungeon crawl-esque Earthborn Rangers meets Vantage style, if you will. Maybe an Iridia without the miniatures vibe-esque. Echoes of the Sundering. And you'll get where I'm going with this in a second, right? Now, you have your keywords. Open world, okay? Simultaneous play. Ooh, that's not always what we see. Cooperative, okay, we see plenty of, ooh, deck construction, okay, because you're building as you're going. Narrative, fantasy. And maybe a little bit more of a Seventh Continent meets, I don't know, Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion, again, without miniatures. Only, again, none of these comparisons are really apt, because as you can see here, you do have your open campaign scenarios. You've got your campaign books, but you're going to be crafting and simultaneously playing your characters individually with their asymmetric actions that you have abilities to manipulate. But you also have the ability not only to do a campaign, but a roguelike style as well. Roguelite, sorry. I always, tongue twister. Simultaneous play, though, is probably the nicest thing about this, because there's no turn order, and you can literally play abilities at the same time as someone else. I like the drop-in, drop-out system, and again, it's just a question of how much of this is that much more different. Alternative abilities, and save boxes. So there are some pretty high standing awesome quotes about how this plays, especially as a cooperative lover. And it's $89. Pre-stretched deluxe goals to go along with it. You're getting the role playing, you're getting combat, you're getting your companions to go along with it, depending on how many players you actually start with. And that's the other thing. And I want this to feel meaningful, but I don't want to feel like some of my other dungeon crawls, like Madara, for example, where I always have to play with 4, or a zombie side, right? And so I kind of like the idea of this. I just wonder if it's going to be like solo multi-handed in, you know, the differences in that regard. But again, I can see it probably being a little bit of both, if you will. A little bit of solo multi-hand with a little bit of solo management with an AI system. So yeah, there's your roguelite mode, $89, gets you the Holofoil Origin card pack. And this is from someone who's not really put out anything else. So, you know, although they say this might not come to retail, this legitimately may not come to retail. So everything you're going to get, like they said, why back now? This is their thing. And I don't really care about the words. I don't care about the illustrations, right? I get gameplay. And so that's really where the emphasis is. Previews, playthroughs down here. I think this is doing something different. It's just which of these different turn of phrase style open world games, especially with the release of Vantage now as something different. I'm not saying these are similar by any means. Which one is right for you? And that would be the only hesitation I would have, is saying or recommending which one is, because it's hard just to look at something like this, something like Vantage, something like Seventh Continent, Seventh Citadel, or even something like Lands of Galzir, and know exactly how you're going to prefer this. Iridia, that same style, Isofarian Guard, which one is right for you. But the price point is better than pretty much all of those, maybe minus Vantage, but that's also mechanically not going to be anything like this. So take that for what you will. Echoes of Sundering, although that doesn't sound like a lot of money, 60 grand. 688 people is actually less than I was expecting, but 60 grand is still freaking good. So give it a look-see. Tell them Lead sent you. Cats versus Cucumbers, $62,000 with 1,600 people, because this is like a King of Tokyo-esque roll and cross-off combo abilities with 9 lives. And so essentially it's a press your luck dice rolling game where the dice have different sides to them. Duh, Chris, all dice have different sides, you idiot. Where I was going with that, though, was one of these sides is the aforementioned title, Cucumber. And if you roll 3 cucumbers, then you bust. If you bust, you have to flip over one of the 9 live cards. And the 9 live cards are shared between all of the players at the table. And so once the last card is flipped over, people bust 9 separate times on the round-by-round basis, individually combined, then the game ends with an even number of rounds. You're going to be scoring based on the King of Tokyo premise of if you have at least 3 of a kind, you can then get the bonus. And then what happens is you can also cross off things on your little sheet here that are going to be combo-licious as well. Probably any rewards or any bust penalties, rinse and repeat. Most points based on all of this wins at the end. Rulebook's right there. A few stretch goals are getting us a little bit of just slight better deluxifications, and a bunch of reviews on, apparently we only do TikTok on this thing. So I don't know. I see tons and tons of views on those TikTok folks, and they have thousands more followers, millions more followers than anything on like YouTube or Instagram or anything else. But I just don't know how much that converts into actual backing. So I'm always curious about that from TikTok. That's a side note though, but this is Cats versus Cucumbers. Risk, G.I. Joe Risk, $54,000, right? 3 campaigns, very close, all in funding. Renegade Game Studios. Now, this is previously a pre-order. I think even like almost a year, maybe even 2 years ago. It's hard for me to remember at this point, but they say if you already previously pre-ordered it, don't worry, you're already included. But unfortunately, you're still not going to get it for probably another year at this point. And this is Risk. And it's like 1 versus 1 Risk, though. Although you can play as more people on the G.I. Joe side of things, it's kind of almost the 1 versus all Risk as well. The other thing that I just have to point out right here is that with this bonus pack as the reason to get it on crowdfunding, this is not insignificant, because this is 4/5, because there's a double there, I think, 4 leader cards to add to the base game, which there's only like, I think about 13 or so in the base game to begin with. So that is literally like a third of the content, because these are the leaders that are going to affect your dynamic asymmetry between the 2 factions of Gojo and Cobra. You know, I've been saying for years and years and years, and knowing is half the battle, and no one ever gets that reference. I have said that reference dozens and dozens and dozens of times over the years, and no one has ever gotten it. So that's where it's from, right? And G.I. Joe, knowing is half the battle. Anyway, so that's where we're going, though. This is slightly different, and there's a slightly different dice mechanic. It has more of like the almost Andromeda's Edge dice mechanic. What happens, though, that's slightly different in this attacking dynamic is it's like best versus best. And unfortunately, then the rest of your dice, if I'm recalling the rules correctly off the top of my head, don't actually count for anything. You just have like more chances to get the highest dice. And only if you tie dice do you then go to the next dice. But if the other person, as like the defensive person, doesn't have as many dice as you, they can't like lose like tons and tons of stuff. So that's just, you know, something you need to be aware of. And I guess the other question for this price point, do you feel like you need all of these different miniatures in that sense? So, right? You're going objectives back and forth in this game, and that's what you're going to be having to do different as well. The other big difference, if you click down here to the rule book, or try and go to the how to play, but, you know, there's only a little bit of preview video, is that this is actually played over a series of 3 rounds, 2 phases each, but it's an action programming system That is not your usual risk. And you actually do that 2 times as the 2 phases. However, after the second phase, you take an end of round phase as well. And that's where you're getting bases, scoring, and getting objectives in that way. The number of cards that you were laying on a round by round basis as we scroll back up here, because again, you get absolutely zero information essentially of how to play this game or what's new in this game compared to regular Risk or compared to anything else that you're familiar with on the page. You really need to pull up the rule book. And so if you are playing with, say, for 2 players, you lay 3 cards down. Anything more than that, you're going to be playing different numbers as well. Your cards are going to have basic actions on them. You're going to be either resolving in terms of requirements, but then also optional ones in addition. Moving your troops around, advancing on faction tracks, as well as then establishing bases at the end of the round, scoring to see if you met any objectives on your scenarios, and then rinsing and repeating to, well, whoever has the most points scored in this way after 3 rounds. Runs you through the basic actions right here: maneuvering, advancing, recruiting, planning, and deploying. And then it talks about special actions that you're going to have both on the Cobra side of things as well as the G.I. Joe, and the different types of units, about how you're going to be able to recruit them, move them, and utilize them as you're going across the board in a conquer all style. Then you also give your separate leader card details, which again are going to have asymmetric actions, and that you need to know they cannot attack, they can only defend. And leaders need to be in the battle for their actual bonus to be available to you. Talks about bases, talks about more faction stuff, thwarting plots, achieving plots, golden rules, team play, everything that goes along with this. So the question is this too much Risk? Is this Risk more in name than actuality? I mean, I'd say that the dice and the actual board and areas remind me of Risk. The mechanics are different enough that I wouldn't necessarily call it a risk like Risk. But is that enough for you, or is it too much? And do you have any nostalgia for G.I. Joe? I like G.I. Joe, but I don't. Then ExoTerra, giant mech campaign skirmish style game. $130,000, and it's expensive. It looks unique. It looks very complicated though as well. Not necessarily the actual physical mechanics, but the minutia of how you're going to be battling, traversing, dealing with upgrading your jacket, as they're saying, as well as battling an enemy AI system as you're going along, keeping track of multiple different values on your own personal mech, and then utilizing an action cube system, as well as dealing with surprises that pop up along the way on the terrain itself in the first place. So from Wild Games, we get a little bit of everything here, and you have standees as well as miniatures. 15 different options, unique decks, playstyles, weapon complex, AI personas, equipment, and armor to claim victory in which way you choose. There's the difference between your standees and your minis. And there is a whole bunch of the content. Now, this iconography is a little bit more complex, and I'll just show you a little bit of what this looks like here so you can get a sense of things. Here is a typical card that you're going to be dealing with in terms of cost to acquire, in terms of the action chaining system that you can use to upgrade it. All of those sorts of things as you're going along, pulling tokens from the activation bag at the beginning of your turn and activating them on your mat as you get your turn played. You have different types of terrain that you're going to be dealing with, as well as different movement points based on the mechs that are available to you. Now, the types of attacks that you'll be doing as well are going to be impacted about what works best against what other types, as well as line of sight being very important, along with range and how you can resolve damage by using the countermeasures, as you can see here, that are available to you. And just pointing out this example here, right? This is the example of what you're going to be dealing with in terms of how you're going to be having to make these decisions. So this is not like necessarily complex in terms of how you're actually doing that action, but how it may react is going to be a bit more. So that's what you need to be aware of. It's not as simple as it may seem. And this picture shows you how much you're going to be coordinating as you're going along. The AI uses a macro system, I believe, and a challenging puzzle to flex your tactical genius to beat them. You want the minis? Great. You want to customize your mech? Great. Your jacket, your gear, everything else that goes along with it. As well as some push your luck as you see how far you can push the limits of your mech in the first place. And you want some more narrative? Well, they've got it for you as well. I'm not kidding about the price point. Now, $259 gets you everything, plus the miniatures, plus a modular expansion, wooden tokens, and the campaign. The rookie level gives you just the core if you want some wooden pieces to go along with it. And the veteran gets you the miniatures as well. So Ace is a little bit more on top of that with the expansion. It's a lot of content. And again, I think it reminds me of like the Edge Dawnfall, if you will. Again, a great system, but incredibly difficult to get to play just because of the learning curve and the repeated need for something like this. This is not going to be a light pick up on Saturday and learn how to play situation, but looks at least solid from what I can tell. Whether or not it's right for you or the complexity and the depth, that's what you have to figure out. Cube Creatures, the battle card game made by a 7-year-old. Somehow, $87,000. It reminds me more of like a mind bug, if you will. The concept is relatively simple. You're going to have up to 3 cards in your creature tableau in front of you that you're going to be trying to be the first one that takes out 5 of your opponent's creatures and has them in their victory pile in order to win the game. Now, the tricky part is that each character is going to have an attack, they're going to have a health value, as well as a special ability power, which is activated with a dice when you roll to attack. And how you're going to be doing that is that you're going to be drawing cards, playing them from your hand into one of the 3 potential slots that you have available to you. The 1 defender who is in front, and then the 2 attackers who are behind. You also have the ability to combo these cards. As you can see in the upper left-hand corner, there is going to be a suit or a type, and there are going to be many different types, as well as a wild. And you can combine them, and when you combine them, you actually combined both the hit points as well as the attack value. Then when you go to attack your opponent's defending creature that is in the front, you actually roll a die that may activate one of these little gray boxes here, which is the power that each of these creatures has individually that may do something differently. Now, the dice itself could do other things, including double the amount of attack points that you're doing or even subtract. So it's a little bit of everything else along the way. 5 creatures win. You have attacking, defending, matching, like I mentioned. The only thing I didn't mention is one of the 3 types of power cards that you're going to be dealing with as well. Basically, your equipables, your actions that you can play as a discard, or your reactions to someone else doing something to you. That's the game. That's everything you need to know. I don't really like the collectible portion of things from that aspect, but we'll skip over that because it's a 7-year-old. Starter set here gets you 30 creature cards. Starter set plus boosters, you know, would be really kind of cool too. I think that's probably what I would do. And again, 3 booster packs in both of these. I don't really want 2 starter sets, but I guess it's kind of necessary. $50. That's not too bad, all things considered. It's a little bit more, even including the 3 booster packs though, than something TCG-ish elsewise on the secondary market for something like Star Wars Unlimited. But you can't compare apples to dragon fruit, so I won't try. But that's it. You want a little bit of content. You want to see a little more how it plays. There you go. A little bit of extras that are unlocked here as well. Just kind of, you know, indie style deck building, really mind bug-esque game. So there you go. $87,000. I'm not surprised because this is a nice, fun, fast concept to play in about 5 minutes and you're done. So give it a look. Elm Leech sent you. Dungeon Tryouts. This is apples to apples, or Cards Against Humanity meets Dungeons and Dragons, right? That's all it is. $110,000. You choose a quest, then you choose a random assortment of completely oddball adventurers, heroes, whatever you want to say, to complete the quest, and then you just pick a winner, and that's it. Secondary goal of the game is to win quests and rub it in your friends' faces. So get a whole bunch of random stuff, and it's got a whole bunch of money because it's got a bunch of these famous online comic people, a couple of which I recognize, and a couple of which, most of which, I'll be honest with you, I just don't know whatsoever. So there you go. That's it. That's all you need to know, and it's going to cost you about $28 for the base game. Would you really pay $10 for a different colored box? Ooh, that's going to go on a whole separate video though. Guest art booster, $10 as well. And another expansion for $18. Oh, and mini pins. Wow, that's a lot of money for those amount of cards, but you know what? It's doing well, and cartoon-based Dungeons & Dragons, apples to apples, so there you go. Give it a look. I have no clue what these Lovecraft Games collections are. There's like literally hardly any description of how these actually play, but I'm going to mention them because I think it's at least an intriguing concept. You have Cthulhu Rift here, which is sort of a roll and write as you roll the dice, coordinate your turn with the rest of your team as you're trying to deal with the cultists and the portals that are going to pop up trying to let Cthulhu in, sort of maybe an Eldritch Horror roll and write, if you will, along those lines. And then you get a little expansion, which gives you 2 different case files that you can deal with as well along the way. I think that looks like something intriguing, but I want to see more. And I just don't have an idea of exactly what the nuance and the mechanistic approach difference is going to be. And I'm not a huge fan of necessarily paying for little miniatures to go along with a roll and write, but take that for what you will. Kadath here is a two-player sort of tile laying duel. Okay, that's And again, a nice concept. I have no information there. And then Cthulhu Crusades duel. Okay, I love me some duel games. Cthulhu Crusades is back. 2-player duel setup with eldritch creatures, summoning them to lay siege to enemy castles. Again, I have no idea. Oh, sorry, there's one more. Cthulhu something here. I'm going to mispronounce it, so we'll just go with that. We'll go with Pupa, right? Dominoes variant card deck and a new deck to go along with it. So again, it's one of those where I think a couple of these could be really kind of intriguing, but I need more information, especially if you're going to charge me this much money, $91 for all 4 of those, and doesn't even really tell me if I can kind of piecemeal them. Do I just have to get them all? Is that really the only option? Oh yeah, that's the only option. So I guess that's cool, but I really don't like the business model. But either way, apparently 270 people are fine with it. If you're really a big Cthulhu fan, give it a look, or maybe keep one and sell 3 because they're not going to be available elsewise. I don't know, give it a look-see. Age of Bitcoin. Now you're diversifying in this magnetic tile-based economic worker placement game. Almost $100,000 here, and $100 is going to get you it because you're trying to outbeat the inflation of Bitcoin and everything else as you're going along. Ooh, dog. Duolex Pledge. Add-ons as the individual creator of Bitcoin, who is still unknown, but you get to know his name at least and see how he does things asymmetrically, as they say, completely different, unpredictable play style. The age of Bitcoin. You have to invest, but in order to get your investment to mature, you have to build trust in it, and others won't build it, and then they might sell it, and that whole making it more valuable than Bitcoin especially is not going to be in your favor. You buy, you sell, you adjust the price literally with these magnetic pieces on this board, as you can see here, using your combos and investment cards to increase the cost, dealing with crashes, and the deluxifications that's going along with this in the first place. Well, how do you play? Go check out one of the videos here. However, if you want to just pull up the rulebook instead, it tells you how you win with the most points in all of these different ways, as well as the 6 primary actions that you are going to have available to you at the beginning. Oh, don't worry. We're playing a little tongue-in-cheek here because you can FOMO not only on the game, but in the game as well. Look, folks, you know it's a little bit probably too heavy for me. White Elephants, Singapore-based board game company here. Some preview content as well as a little bit of playthrough to kind of give you a feeling of it. Some stretch scrolls here from deluxifications as well as a little bit of a FOMO deluxification. Oh, stretch goal. I love that. Sorry, a little tongue-in-cheek, but give it a look. I mean, again, White Elephants, first-time designer, so that'd be the only thing I'd say. Do you need to have any concern about that? But almost $100,000, they'll break it easily by the time it ends. So Age of Bitcoin. Doomguard, board game, tabletop role-playing game, $65,000. Again, this one's going to be very short and sweet, cooperative board game, but also the tabletop, like I mentioned, using their previous rules based on the Savage World as well, with a new exciting system here. It gives me vibes of Freedom 5, if you will, of what it kind of looks like in terms of the cooperative nature in the first place. Now, this is going up against your villains and minions, as you might be familiar with, and the Doom Guard, right? Ultimate evil, defy darkness, save the city! Save the cheerleader, save the world. Anyway, tell me that reference and see if you get it down in the comment section below. After season 1, they jumped the shark a little bit, but I stayed in for about 4 seasons. I think I almost watched everything, to be fair. And you're going to be doing the usual thing that you do in cooperative games, right? Resolving the bad stuff, taking your turn, generating your actions, performing your cards as you rescue bystanders, engage enemies, and complete objectives. Now, if things get too corrupted, it changes the actual landscape in the first place, as well as the abilities that are going to be present based on your heroes as well. Drive it back, achieve all the objectives, win. Want to go download the rulebook and look at it? Absolutely, except you got to log in and put it in your cart and then check out over on DriveThruRPG. So you can kind of do that, but you're probably better off or simpler to just watch one of the videos down below. But again, I wish there was actually more mechanistic of what this is doing, how this is different on the actual page itself. There's just, again, a lot of information in that regard missing. It's 8 linked scenarios, standalones, you can do a campaign, you can get extra campaign boxes here. Standees, I love standees, so give kudos there. More guardians, more bad guys, more decks of cards to go along with it. The Legions of Hell. Okay. And here's the RPG. We're not talking about that. And the pledged tier, what is the base game going to actually cost you? Oh, $60. That's actually less than I was expecting. Get a little bundle deal and get the expansions for, oh, $140? So does that mean each of those is what? That's $80. That's $40 per an expansion. That's an expensive expansion for the amount of content compared to the base game. But if you like it, you like it. So again, we're not having tons of these that are obviously 7 figures this week, but $60,000 is very, very good on crowdfunding. So I always am impressed no matter what. Again, this is a very cool concept. I'm not sure if it would have a lot of staying power on my table, but I like the idea of this one as well. With just a tiny, slightly, I did slimy the first outtake, bit of take that, $37,000, which again, when you look at this and when you hear the description, $37 is really, really, really impressive. Vine, producing the best green bean plant that you can, but it's tile laying. And the difference here is that not only are you starting out with your bean plant and producing it or growing it any way that you so choose with your tiles, because you place one on your own plant on every single turn. Simple, right? Straightforward, right? However, you also place one on your opponents. And here's the tricky point. Then at the end of the turn, you can place a bean, as in these beans tiles, which are going to give you points for the amount of beans that you're growing, and they'll have different attachments as well. However, you can also, at the beginning of your turn, cut between 2 sections, any 2 sections of your bean plant to prune it and to get rid of some of the things you don't want. Go until the tiles are gone. Score the most points, you win. That's it. So I like this. It's a little bit of Zen, a little bit of take that, and just a little bit of something slightly different. So I give them kudos, and I think this looks like something that's very light, but also kind of intriguing. And I kind of like the idea of it as well. Ooh, pumpkins and beetles. Oh, so just different variants of how you're going to be attaching and moving that way. Okay, pumpkin tiles, pumpkin drawstring bag. I don't know. Too much of a good thing, just enough complexity there with the differences, as you can see with those tiles. That'd be the only question I wonder. $19 is really better than I was expecting. $20 expansion, though, that's really impressive there in terms of price point of how much that went up very quickly. And you can deluxify it if you really, really so choose with all of those things. Gnomes and Wizards, I don't even remember covering that one, but that was their previous one. Some quotes from Meg and Board Game Co. and a little bit of other content. So Bobby Powell, you got a winner on your hands here. Give it a look-see as well as it goes. So apparently they're going to Gen Con. So if you're going there later this week as well, you can see it there and tell them Liege sent you. Most funded, we have Get Gnomed, 7,200 out of 7,500. I have no clue how this plays whatsoever, but it's basically dressing up your gnomes and going to raid other people's mushrooms, and you have wooden painted meeples in order to dress them up better than your opponents to combo chain as you're going along to mix and match and get the most points by the end, dealing with nature and everything else along the way. And I wish they had that rulebook on the page, because that'd be really nice. A 25-second TikTok video or a YouTube video doesn't really tell me from a preview standpoint what it's actually going to entail. These are the basic steps. Dress up, play cards, and battle enemy gnomes to deal with your opponent's defenses and raid their mushroom homes to steal their lawn ornaments and claim victories. That's it. You got a 26-second video there and a 4-minute preview video there. Again, I just wish there was more content. Show me what you got. But somehow that's also meaning it's not going to be delivered for over a year at this point. So get gnomed and get a look-see. Valiant Wars, Call to Arms. I remember this because I used to have the base game, $15,000. It's a press your luck war style card game, only you deck build, and you press your luck by flipping over the top cards from your deck in order to get the most power, and you're gonna have abilities that are gonna go on the way that are combo chaining as well, and you're then going to win gold based on the round that will subsequently deck build and be able to pay for them, as you can see on the right side of these cards in the first place. New locations that you're gonna be battling over because you need a certain number of these battle locations won in terms of the victory points, and you get a whole bunch of champions and booster packs and booster packs. So again, this is a very family friendly game. I really like it from that aspect. It kind of makes me think I should reacquire it. And it's a pressure luck because each of your decks are going to be filled with these Dark Omen cards, and if you get 2 of them face up, then you bust and you're out. So there you go. That's what it's got going on, and it's, wow, more expensive than I was expecting for just the base game for $43. And the base game plus expansion and playmat and booster packs is $90. Holy cow, for a card-based only game, that's a lot of money. I mean, I like the idea of it, but that's pretty expensive penny nowadays, especially on the crowdfunding. So if you really like it, you really like it though, and Strange Machine Games is killing it with this one. So 15 grand, there you go. Now, I haven't done this in 2 weeks, so this is like 2.5 weeks almost worth of crowdfunding, and this one funded and even launched and funded before I even did a video. And this is the Stefan Feld City Collection. If you want special editions for number 5 through number 8, did you know what number they're on right now? Do you have any of the previous? Or did you want to not deluxify them because now you can get just the classic special editions to do that, right? For only another $220 before shipping. I'm leaving it there. I've covered all these games individually. You can pick them up maybe at Essen later this year, but you would get them otherwise delivered maybe the first quarter of 2026. Take that for what you will, and I don't know, right? Nah, side note, P3 Paints Wave 2 over here from Steamforged has over 400,000 US dollars at the time of me filming this. Whole ton of colors for paints. If you're a painter, I wish I was a painter. I wish I could do that. Does anyone want to just paint my miniatures and I'll give you like a shout out on my channel and show them off? Because I cannot do this. I tried to do Marvel United a couple summers ago, like 2 summers ago, and it was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. It was like with the quick stuff, and I just can't do it well. So if anyone wants to give me a shout out in the comment section or the email, you know how to hit me up. Metallics, all that sort of. I mean, like, I love the idea of this, right? I love seeing the pictures on like the Marvel United and other pages. I have no artistic ability whatsoever. You know, I was saying that my oldest kid was a better drawer than I ever have been when he was in like the 4th grade and he was coloring inside the lines. So this isn't me. This is other, you know, content creators and people who do this professionally who really like this stuff. So that looks freaking cool. That's a cool miniature and that's a cool paint job. But I can't speak to it otherwise. But the miniatures are fantastic. So I would assume the paints are along the same side of things if people are throwing this much money at it. So there you go. Now we're done. You know, I'm really glad going to this portion of the video here at the very end that I didn't have to redo this because I actually remembered to hit the record button. Okay, tomorrow we will have my Gen Con list. I you know, just had a ton of life stuff go on and my birthday, all things considered. So I just didn't get to edit it nearly as soon as I wanted to. I wanted to have it out like over a week before Gen Con, but you know what? The beginning of the week isn't too bad either. And like I said, a few of those games that I talked about on my birthday, I'll actually have some reviews out here, hopefully 1 or 2 this week as well, talking about that. And I just have to answer a whole bunch of emails from publishers as well. And I'm not too far behind on some of the review stuff in addition. And there were 1 or 2 other games that I didn't cover on that birthday video. General Orders, the sequel follow-up to that one from Osprey. Ooh, dog. I'm really impressed by that. As well as the trio of retail games from Ivy Studios. The ones that they were going to crowdfund, but then decided to do to retail when the whole tariff thing hit. They just sent those out, and so I've got those in my pocket as well. So we'll be talking about those in the near future in addition. That's all I've got. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Stay classy. Have a great freaking day. Have a great freaking weekend if it's almost done. And have a great freaking week. And hopefully you're not working a ton this summer. And hopefully you're having more time off and just relaxing and just playing some fun games. And we played Vicious Gardens over this weekend. And spoilers, it was actually a lot better than I thought. Spoilers, it's like the 2025 equivalent of the 2024 game, Courtesans, in a slightly different, but it gives me that vibe, style, weight-ish. So if you liked Courtesans from 2024, wait for my review on this one. So there you go. Spoilers over. Teaser over. I'm done. Peace out. Video long enough, and it's time to go play some Unicorn Overlord. Haha. Peace out. See you later, man.